The Idaho 4 case just continues to baffle. Just thinking about this case, I have found four more red flags standing between us and reason.
And you may be thinking, how do they have four more red flags? You'll be surprised with what you find out. There's been a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns with the Idaho 4 case, and today we're bringing you four new red flags. I'm Lainey Long.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So we've gone over a lot of the big issues and red flags, yellow flags, all types of information regarding the Idaho 4 case. What is it today that we're going to be talking about?
Well, I read a lot and I listen a lot. I listen to other people, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this trial is just taking so long. It's really taking so long. These crimes occurred way back on November 13th of 2022." And I do understand. This case is about the families of Kaylee and Maddie and Ethan and Xana, and so yes, I do understand the frustration that's involved in those families. So I'll just start out by saying that there was a loss of a young person, my brother, when I was young in totally different circumstances. So I definitely understand that. But at the same time, the wheels of justice do need to grind along in a methodical and a correct and a proper way. And so, yes, we did find four more red flags. And the first one is, even if the case is not tried until the summer of 2025, from the date that they actually arrested Brian Kohberger in December of 2022 until summer of 2025, that's approximately 2.5 years. And that's not, out of the ordinary. It's really just not. I mean, red flag number 4, from the time that Laurie Vallow was actually arrested in Hawaii until her trial, it was 3 years and 2 months. Her hubby, Chad Daybell, from the day he was arrested, and you'll remember that it was the bodies of the two kids, Tylee and JJ, that were found buried in his backyard. So you would think it's not a slam dunk, but that's pretty strong evidence, right? Well, the Chad Daybell trial was 3 years and 10 months after he was arrested. The trial of Hannah Gutierrez, which just concluded as we are recording this podcast, came 2 years and 4 months after the unfortunate death of the cinematographer. And so as we record this, upcoming trial of Alec Baldwin will be 2 years and 9 months after the tragic shooting of the cinematographer. So that's 2 years and 9 months. And then finally, the trial of Adam Montgomery came 4 years and 2 months after the horrible death of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. Now, it was 4 years and 2 months. If you subtract the 2 years during which they didn't know where Harmony was, it's only 2 years and 2 months. But I'm going to contend that that's on law enforcement and the judicial system, because they should have known. The judicial system having decided that Harmony should go to Adam, and then her being, I guess we can say now that he's been convicted, her being the subject of murder in December of 2019, and no one in the world knowing about it or following up on it, that is on the system. So 4 years and 2 months. So look at those delays in trials. So it's not, I know it's frustrating. Trust me, I know it's frustrating, but it's not out of the ordinary for a trial, which, as the prosecution, the defendant, and the judge in the Kohberger case have said, it's a complicated case, especially with all the technology. So, it's not accurate to say, oh, it's taking so long. It's just not,
A lot of people, I think, have expectations that in a situation like this, that they want everything to be dealt with quickly. It's just like, the emotions are high for people are found dead. I think a lot of people are hoping that justice is going to be served a lot sooner and that this should be an open and shut case. I mean, a lot of people, you see the bickering in our comments that, oh, he's guilty, oh, he's innocent. Our podcast, everything that we're saying is just conversation and speculation. all defendants on our podcast are innocent until proven guilty. But there's a lot of reasons as to why things like this take such a long time. You have criminal court cases that can go on for years, and maybe a verdict comes out and it's still not correct and things need to get changed, later down the line. I think that it's important to take time and to make sure that we're assessing everything appropriately. And conflicts do come up, but everybody deserves a right to a free trial, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, in the Hannah Gutierrez matter and the Alec Baldwin matter, I don't recall, and if they did, I didn't read it. I read the newspaper a lot. Unlike a lot of people, I do read the newspaper. I don't recall a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's taking so long for this to go to trial," and I don't know why. Is the life of the cinematographer Helena Hutchins any less important than? Or more important than the four young people that were killed in the Idaho 4 case back in November 13th of 2022? I don't know. I do know that people want justice. I want justice too. But, this case is not a slam dunk. The thing is, people come to my office and they tell me, I've got a case. It's a slam dunk. This will be easy. It's rare. A slam dunk is rare. We're not on the basketball court. We're in the court of law, and there's always disputed issues. There's always, and you have to think the way your opposition thinks. You have to think the way the opposing attorney thinks. And they're always going to find issues. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, in the Idaho 4 case, as you know from all of our previous episodes and the people we've interviewed, there are a lot of issues in this case.
And with all of those issues, I think another thing for people to consider too is that this is going in front of a jury, and it may feel like this is taking a long time right now, but with a case where we have so many situations where did this happen, did this not happen, can you prove this, can you prove that, even just jury deliberation is probably going to take a long time in itself. So we want things to be done quickly because it's a scary situation. We want to be able to feel safe, but at the end of the day, there's just a lot of steps in place, and it's going to potentially be going on for a while longer.
Yeah, this is a court case. This is not McDonald's or Wendy's, but the point you just made leads us right into my next red flag. And the problem I have with a lot of what I read and what I see, whether it's on YouTube or elsewhere, the focus seems to be on, is Kohberger the one? Is he guilty or is he innocent? Well, we think he's guilty because of this. We think he's innocent because of this. There's probable cause. There's reasonable doubt. The whole thing that's the wrong focus. That's the wrong focus. And I don't like it when people say I'm tired of this or I'm tired of that, but it is exhausting to hear people just continually say, well, Kohberger is the one because of this. Well, Kohberger is not the one because that's the wrong focus. So we're going to wipe that off the slate. The real focus should be, how did the event occur inside that house at 1122 King Road back on November 13th of 2022? Who was involved? How did it occur? What went down? Forget about Kohberger. That's jumping way too far ahead. What happened in that house? There were 4 young people, 20 and 21 years old, all of them in pretty good physical shape. And I'm not going to be a sexist and say that Ethan Chapin was a guy and he was said to be in really good shape. But all right, I said it. So how does it happen that people walk into that house? Notice I didn't say a person. I said people go into that house somehow after 4 o'clock in the morning, somehow after a DoorDash delivery is made, somehow there are indications that maybe it was at 2, maybe it was at 3. Law enforcement says between 4 and 4:25. The focus on this case needs to be what really happened. What happened in those 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor? How is it that there was a sighting of a person walking out of the house with bushy eyebrows and a black face mask? How was it that those crimes occurred in such a horrible manner, bludgeoned with a heavy, with a sharp instrument? How is it that something like that could happen in the middle of the night? We have some facts. We don't have a lot of facts. We have the 2 girls in a bar at night, and then we have the video of them at the grub truck. And then we have them going home. We have telephone calls being made to the ex-boyfriend. We have Xana and Ethan at a fraternity party the evening before this happened, then going home. We have one of the parents saying that they called at midnight and they were eating pizza. So how is it that there was a DoorDash delivery if they'd already had pizza? What? So forget about Kohberger. That's the wrong focus. What happened inside of that house? What happened that four young people, 20, 21 years old, apparently fairly popular in a party house? I've said it before. It was a drug house. Party in the Urban Dictionary means drugs. So we can't look away from that reality. All right. We just can't. The rage with which those crimes were committed had to be an awful lot of rage. Somebody just, I know, I don't buy the incel thing. I know a lot of good people do, but a guy that couldn't get the girls and just was, and maybe infatuated or tailing the girls, I don't buy it. What I buy is we have to stop looking at, was it this guy or was it not that guy? We have to really, sit back and say, what are the facts? What happened inside of that house? And then go from there. Who were all those people standing around outside when the police got there? Who called 911? Why was somebody else taken to the hospital? There's just way too many questions about the events of that evening, and we have to start analyzing the case by what happened, how it happened, who were the players. Forget about BK and whether he's guilty or not, because you know what? We don't know based on the facts that we do know. So it's time to forget about that. All of us, including me, have spent an awful lot of time thinking about that. But it's just a time to shift the focus away from that and look at, what it was that happened.
And I think that this point also illustrates a large part as to why the previous point with the timeline, why it takes so long. Because, like you said, right now, as a general public, it's not like one of those cases where you have a very specific detailing of what happened. A lot of what's happening in this case is, well, did it occur between 4 and 4:16? What actually happened? When did these murders occur? How did this even happen in the first place? A lot of the times, not always, but a lot of the times it's more common that we have a little bit of a more painted picture. So right now it just kind of feels like we have this puzzle and maybe most of the outline is done, but you're still just trying to put things in whatever place you can fit them in. And you bring up a really good point where the general public, we really don't know what happened. We don't really know why the DoorDash was driving, what's going on with DoorDash. You see like a lot of our comments, even originally, I don't see it as much anymore, but a lot of people were saying is just like, what are they even ordering on DoorDash that's open at 4 a.m.? There's just a lot of pieces to this puzzle that haven't really been fleshed out. So I think a lot of the how you said is just like people, person, multiple is just like we have no idea really what went down. And a lot of people think they have the right idea as to what went down, but there's no way for us to know.
No, and one of the perplexing things, and I don't know if it's an issue or not, but it's out there, and that is these 400 witnesses that Ann Taylor spoke of in the hearing in court back on January 28th, I believe it was. And I don't think that she meant that there were going to be 400 witnesses in court. I don't think any court's going to allow that unless they have 400 totally unique things to say. But it does mean that there were 400 leads. A lot of times you get leads and you call and you find out, well, that was really nothing. It wasn't McDonald's, it was DoorDash. Yeah. Okay, that's so I don't think that she meant that there were 400 witnesses that are going to take the stand. I think what she meant was there are still 400 outstanding leads. Sure, call them witnesses. They're people that her staff or she need to call, email, text, whatever, and get their story. Because as I pointed out, forget the focus on BK, innocent or guilty. The focus here needs to be what happened. Who else is out there in the community? There have been all kinds of statements that were made. And it started when law enforcement was busy inside having meetings with Olivia Gonsalves, Kaylee's sister, saying, hey, wait a minute. These security cameras are going to go and be recorded over pretty soon. And she's the one that went out and got the DoorDash video, and she's the one that went out and got one of the security cameras from a neighbor. And what's needed is more of that. What's needed is more people to go out and give credible evidence. Now, there's been a lot of talk. There've been a lot of allegations, and I don't know exactly really what happened with Demetrius and Emma. I have a feeling that they're side characters that have something to play into it. But the more I think about this case, the more I think that we need to start focusing on what happened inside of that house. You know, what happened in the bar that night, what happened at the food truck, what happened when the girls turned their back on Hoodie Guy and went home, what happened inside of that house and how this all went down and who was involved. Focusing on one person just takes away from the relevance of what happened. And there is not going to be justice in this case until, people start looking at that angle. And that's how I feel about this now.
I think that there's a lot of good points that you made there. I think that a lot of people, people that watch our videos might be a little bit more open-minded in this, but it feels like there's so many different people who have their own very specific narrative of what's happening in this situation. And when you brought up Emma and Demetrius, and this was something, those were people that initially, when we started, podcasting on the Idaho for, like, we had heard about, but we didn't really know just how many, and like you said, there's like 400 different potential leads. It's just like, this is a story that goes into every direction, and people who watch our videos are more familiar, where we try to explore every avenue and try to explore each one of those parts, but it's just so many directions that things could go into.
There sure are. And one of those directions that we need to go into, and our next red flag number 2, did University of Idaho President Scott Green violate the gag order? Now, as we all know, he wrote a book, and in that book, he was talking about the investigation in which he was a part. Does that violate the gag order? Well, here's the language of the amended, revised non-dissemination order, and it pertained to, and I quote, the prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, any agents of the prosecuting attorneys and defense attorneys, and any attorneys representing witnesses, victims, or a victim's family are prohibited from making extrajudicial statements. And then the gag order goes into describing those extrajudicial statements. But so, it pertains to prosecuting attorneys and agents of the prosecuting attorneys. And, wasn't Scott Green at least arguably a part of the law enforcement effort? Here are 2 direct quotes from University President Scott Green's book, the University President's Crisis Handbook, which, by the way, sure, it has one chapter about the Idaho 4 case. The whole rest of the book, hundreds of pages, are about, his having helped the university, in his words, out of financial difficulties. The last chapter of the book does, in fact, talk about evil. It does talk about the Idaho 4 case. 2 direct quotes. Immediately after the incident, we set up a morning briefing and an afternoon debriefing that included our university team and law enforcement. So the university president and some of his sidekicks are meeting twice a day with law enforcement in the very beginning of this case, right after November 13th of 2022, when the Idaho 4 slayings occurred.
But no inside information, allegedly.
And then
just hanging out twice a day.
And so he says, Moscow Police Department, MPD, and the University of Idaho held daily briefings with each other. But Blaine is the dean of students, emphasized that the U of I had no insider information about the status of the investigation of leads, or what were they doing twice a day?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what 2 meetings twice a day would involve if they had no insider information. It's just like, hey, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Any updates? No. All right. See you later today.
So it goes on, and this is a direct quote, despite one little minor typo there. The university provided as much information as they could to the police, working through the general counsel's office to ensure the details were done so legally. So the university president is telling us that they were on the inside of the initial investigation from the very start. They are there. They are part of the investigation. They're meeting twice a day with the law enforcement. So now we go back to the gag order, the non-dissemination order, which bars any statements by any agents of the prosecuting attorneys. And you know what? I guess it could be argued that it's a gray area, but for people to be on the inside of that investigation and then write a book, if that doesn't violate the spirit and intent of the non-dissemination order, I don't really know what does. And even if it's not a violation, it makes one wonder about the purity and the focus of that police investigation from the very start. And we've talked about this in other episodes, but what's the purpose of a law enforcement investigation? The purpose of a law enforcement investigation is to find out who did it. We talked about this 2 minutes ago. What happened inside of that building? What happened that night? What were the events that were leading up to it with respect to the food truck, the bar, the fraternity, and all these other things? There are a lot of other things. What happened leading up to the crime? How did the crime happen? Who did it? What was going on? How did they get away from there? What are the clues? What are the evidence? Yet that's their focus. What's the focus of the university president? The focus of the university president was finances, finances, finances. He came right out and said it, and I don't have that quote up on the screen, but one of the things he said was, we wanted to ensure that the parents and the community at large knew that this was safe. Those are two different focuses. What is a university president doing on the inside of a police investigation, to the point where the sister of one of the victims on her own has to say, hey guys, what are you doing having your donuts and doing all these meetings? Why isn't somebody getting the video from the food truck? Why isn't somebody getting the video from the neighbors? And while they were having these meetings with Scott Green, who's trying to save his university's face, Olivia was going out and getting this information and a lot more. So it's tainted. In my view, the investigation is tainted by having the university president there who has a different interest. Interest of the police, solve the crime. What happened? Interest of the university president, save the university, keep it on financial footing, and assure everyone that everything's okay. So I guess my rant is over on that, but it certainly seems that the non-dissemination order was selectively applied by those who wanted that protection or wanted to make sure that they could seal, gag, redact, and otherwise keep secrets.
I'm curious as to how long this book has been in the process and why that bit had to be included, or why we couldn't just wait until everything was over. Because, like you said, it's kind of revealing to me, in my opinion, a little bit, that there was a lot of interaction with the police, and it's just like, what is exactly happening? And people are people. You get people in the room together, they're not supposed to talk. They might let something slip. But I don't know I don't know the university president. I don't know anything about this gentleman, but the fact that he either didn't wait to release his book or felt the need to include this in his book, I don't like that. It's just like, did you include this little factoid because you thought it would boost sales? Did you release your book now because the publicity of all this is gonna help boost that? It's a little weird to me. Reminds me of our previous court authors that we've had, our jury handling lady from the other case with the egg lady.
Oh, the egg lady. Yeah. That was
the Murdoch trial shenanigans.
I just know in the years that, and again, I'm a civil attorney, so most of what I do is civil litigation, but I have involved in criminal cases. When I do a criminal case, I align myself and associate myself with some top shelf criminal defense attorneys. I've known a lot of criminal defense attorneys over the years. Before I went to law school, I was a reporter. I did do the police beat. I did trials, and I've read a lot. I've never read of a case or seen a case or been involved in a case where a university president was involved in the day-to-day machinations of the very first, laying the groundwork of a criminal investigation, especially a criminal investigation into a homicide, not just a homicide, a multiple homicide. And that kind of goes in a couple of different directions. What business of the universities was it? I can see maybe once a week a phone call. Hey, guys, how's it going? But to be in on the ground floor twice a day in a criminal investigation is part of it. The other part of it is a criminal investigation of this nature into a homicide is very focused. There are the forensics. There are the people that look at the medical side. There are the people that look at how did it happen? This wasn't a gun. This was a knife. What kind of a knife was used? What were the angles? Where were the bodies found? What possible motive do we have? What other clues are there inside of the house? There couldn't have just been one latent footprint. We know that. That's common sense. What other clues are there? Do we have a team inside of that house bookmarking every single thing? Are we photographing every single angle inside of that house? Do we have witnesses? Are we knocking on the doors of every single house within a mile of that building? Are we talking to every single person that had a ring camera or a security camera? Are we talking to every single person that might have been out walking their dog? I walk my dog twice a day, and I walk here and I walk there. I see stuff. I mean, thank God I've never seen anything of this magnitude. But did anyone? I don't care if it was 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. We don't even know that. This was a university neighborhood, and we all know people of that age tend to stay up late. I sure as heck did. So what if it was at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock? It's time to make the donuts, and maybe there's people out, about ready to get the donuts. So, that's the focus of a criminal investigation, a homicide investigation, all of those and more. The book is this thick. I touched on that much, but that's the focus, not having some university president in there saying, hey guys, what's up? I mean, it's bizarre in my mind. It's just bizarre that a university president is sitting in on a homicide investigation. If he wants to call them once a week and say, hey guys, that's fine. And I understand these guys were all friends. They probably saw each other at the coffee shop. That's fine. But to be inside of that investigation, it's a head scratcher at the very least.
I mean, it's time consuming. I couldn't help but giggle to myself when you mention walking the dog twice a day, because doing something twice a day every day is a huge commitment to something that you need to go out of your way to do. Is like, are these guys calling in on Zoom? Like, it's just like, this has to be in half an hour to an hour long each time it happens. So you're thinking, an hour to 2 hours a day is a lot of time to spend talking to someone. I'm assuming these cops aren't calling in and just for like a 5-minute hello, goodbye. Like, there's some kind of dialogue happening. And I think it's, maybe from the president's perspective, important to highlight being able to work with law offices or law officers. But at the same time, it's just like, is it really a good look to be talking about how you were handling this case when it's not even over and it's under a gag order?
It's more than a head scratcher. It boggles my mind that happened. And that kind of brings us to our final red flag for today. Red flag number 1. From reading the comments and listening and reading, so many people have blamed the prosecution for dragging its feet, and that's why this trial is taking so long, which, as I pointed out before, I don't think it's taking that long. Every case is different. A complicated case can take 4 years, as we indicated earlier. Other people blame the defense. Ann Taylor is complaining about going through 52 terabytes. She's arguing over the IgG and the DNA. She's arguing over alibi. Where's the alibi? And other people blame the prosecution for dragging its feet. There's no final cast report. We've heard that it's out in draft form. We've heard that there are pieces of video. Are people still at the video console putting together some video? The prosecution has also said one of the reasons that we're in 11 series of discovery requests now is the prosecution has stood up to the judge and said, it's not me, Your Honor. There's all these different agencies. There's the FBI, there's the Idaho State Police, there's the Moscow Police Department, and there are other agencies that are involved. So some people blame the prosecution and some people blame the defense. I don't think either one of those is the issue. I think the issue is do it right, do it correctly. Why don't we have the cast report? I guess the cast report in the murder case took a year. All right, it's been a year plus. The alibi, I don't know. That's I can't comment on that because who knows what that's all about. And we talked about that in other episodes. The IgG DNA, I've said before, the prosecution says that it's irrelevant and it's not going to be used at trial. Well, so what? Give it to the. So why are we fighting over it? Why are we fighting over it? If it's irrelevant and it's not going to be used at the trial, then why is a court saying, well, the defense can have a portion of it? No, that's wrong. Let them have it and put them under the order of secrecy that they're under. Let them waste their time taking a look at it. That's going to end the issue. This issue would have been over, 6 or 8 months ago if the court had just ordered the defense to, you can have it. Prosecution can give you all of it, not just a portion of it, and give it to the defense, and then tell the defense they can't disclose any of it unless or until they bring a motion, and we'll deal with it then. But so I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the defense blames the prosecution that blames the defense are commenters, and commenters from here to London to Los Angeles have picked and chosen who they're going to blame. A case like this just takes time. And I'm a little bit baffled. That a court would, take so much time reviewing something and then saying the other side could only have a portion of it. So now the prosecution and the judge know something the defense doesn't know. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Isn't there a problem there? So I think it's a process and it takes time, but just this, blaming each other, like our illustration says, isn't really overly helpful. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
It's, I think you worded it perfectly where both parties are pinning the blame on the other. I think a lot of people in our comments have agreed that the whole request for discovery situation has gotten completely out of control. And a lot of people, I think, have a lot of frustrations because things are so just messy and unorganized. A lot of people feel like there's intentional interference, which I'm sure is nobody's intention with this court case. But I think it's reasonable that some people are getting fed up and frustrated with the whole process behind this because it does not seem to be executed in an organized and controlled manner like court cases should be.
So I guess the only other thing that I would say to people that think that this should be sped up is, and one thing I'll agree with the court, which has said they only want to try this case once. You've got to be thorough. You've got to have the cast report. You've got to have a video, not a bunch of pieces put together. I would jump up and down and object, all day long to getting a video in pieces. If there's too many agencies, a court has authority. A court has authority to order stuff, and I don't see, I don't see this as an excuse that, there's too many agencies. Get a court order, get the stuff. Otherwise, there's going to be sanctions. 52 terabytes, it's a lot. It reminds me of a story back, and I'll date myself telling the story, way back in 1979, where the Iranians took over the American embassy and, threw the Americans out of the country. Before they were thrown out, the people in the American embassy threw all the documents in a shredder and shredded everything. Well, when the Iranian Revolutionary Guard went in and took over the American embassy, they hired college kids. I doubt if they actually paid them, but they put college kids in the American embassy and they ordered them to put together all of those documents that have been shredded. And they did. So if they can put together all of these documents that have been shredded, and that's a massive job, Why are we talking about, oh, there's 52 terabytes? Get some people, qualified people, put them in a room, lock them in there with donuts and lemonade or whatever. You're not coming out until you're done with this. So what? The IgG DNA, just do it. I mean, just disclose it. Alibi. I don't know. We've talked about that before. They've got there are court deadlines. I think the court has now imposed a deadline. You got to come up with the alibi, or you got to disclose the alibi. So all of this stuff can and should be dealt with more in a more organized fashion. And my closing thought to people that are saying that this is taking too long, well, Jay Loxton had made a comment that this is going to take 28 years. Well, it well could if it's forced. If they force a trial and do a trial and make mistakes, it's going to go up to the appellate courts. And there's two levels of appellate courts in Idaho. There's the appeals court, and then there's the Supreme Court. Well, guess what? In Massachusetts, where I have an office, it's the same thing. There's the Massachusetts Court of Appeals, and then above that, they call it the Supreme Judicial Court. There's actually a case in Massachusetts that was sent back down 4 times over a period of 20 years because there were problems and mistakes. And so that's why it does need to be done once. And if you think I'm just talking, the case citation of the Massachusetts case that was sent back down 4 times is Commonwealth versus James Cater. And it's right there in the law books. And so, you can't rush it. I do understand the parents. I do understand the families. I do understand. I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what they're going through. It's horrible. It's tragic. I lost a brother under different circumstances when I was a kid. So I do know the pain a family has when they lose a young one, but I don't know the pain that they're going through. But justice does take time. It takes time. And so to push the court and make the court and push them, it's not taking a long time in this case. Are people dragging their feet? Maybe here and there, but you know what? It takes time to do it right. And I do agree with the court when they say we got to do it once, no more than that.
I definitely agree with that statement. And how you said it's just like it may seem like it's taking a long time, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. And if you want things done the right time, if we want to not be talking about this case in 5 years, which obviously you guys had wonderful, beautiful commentary to it, but we do want this case, to be over. We want things to be finalized. We want closure for the families. And we do hope that things get resolved in the best, most efficient manner, and that hopefully everything seems to sort itself out.
Yeah, so I think we've kind of exhausted the 4 red flags. We only did 4 this week. I had a 5th, but I wanted to do some more research. So we'll do one of the other ones. We might do a whole episode, and we'll leave you hanging on that we did have some more. But do you have any comments from our viewers on this one?
I do. Did you want to go first? Or I can go first as well.
This is Brian Williams. What an interesting name. I doubt if it's the Brian Williams, who's now on, I think it's CNBC. One person with a blade that has confounded me all along. It goes against the law of averages. Bigly, that a single person could do this. Well, I agree 100% with that. Wouldn't there be a terrible scream from one of the 4 that would bring people to the scene quickly? You would certainly think so. That's a lot of common sense there, Brian, and I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. So I have Emma Madara's 4610. If all of those people were there for the police, isn't that alone reasonable doubt? Couldn't have any of them planted the sheaf? And I think that's an interesting point that the jury is going to need to consider, and how we talked about before. We don't know how long jury deliberation is going to take, because when you look into all those different things, all these different points, even a lot of people question the sheath itself. Like, even though his DNA was on it, we don't know when that sheath even got there, if it belonged to someone, and if it was just coincidence. We don't necessarily know if the sheath was belonging to the murder victim, the murder weapon itself. So Emma, that's a good point, where the fact that there were other people on the scene of the crime could potentially lead to some doubt of the sheath actually being his.
Okay. Here's another one from Brian Williams. He's very busy.
Mhm.
Leave no stone unturned. I suspect people are restrained about noting the sheer attractiveness of the girls who were in the house. Yes, it can be in the eye of the beholder, but when I make the point, I'm suggesting the perspective or viewpoint of a typical young male. Certain thoughts can prompt unbalanced persons to do terrible things. It happens in all kinds of ways, as with Bill Cosby, although he did not commit murder. Need I even share this background? I run the risk of committing misogyny. We can't be inhibited that because we're looking for the truth wherever it lies. A killer has crazy things lurking in his head. I can't believe it's coincidence that these bombshell females ended up at this one very visible off-campus residence. Maybe it has been explained how it happened. The girls posed for various photos and videos. I'm happy for such girls, I guess, but it can attract the wrong kind of attention. I don't know if he's engaging in a really not good thing, which is blaming the victim, or if he's just talking about the mind of a sick mind that, hones in on this kind of thing. That, I mean, young people are young people. They're going to do what they do. And people have been making videos as long as there have been videos. So I certainly don't want to be seen as blaming a victim here. I certainly never saw anything overly off color. We've all seen the videos that the three girls did. I didn't see it as anything that's that far out of the ordinary. It's kind of, I mean, parents aren't always happy that kids do these things, but I mean, a lot of times they were just goofing around. Like there was one in which one of the girls was making fun of the other girl, and I have to do your chores. So I don't know about that. I mean, that this type of commentary is out there, but I don't buy. And I know there are good people out there that we've had here on the show that buy the whole incel theory. I don't. I think it's rubbish.
And I agree with your point that we shouldn't be blaming the victims. And I think at the end of the day, these girls were just living their life, and you take photos and videos, and you never, like, you want to just live your life. Like, even us right here, we're taking these videos and making commentary. We don't ever expect some crazy person to get pissed off with what we say and to come find us. So it's hard because when you do post on social media, like, you do become a target in some senses that other people wouldn't know you exist otherwise. But at the same time, everybody's just trying to live their life and feel, we generally, I think, as people, feel safe when we're in our own homes and around our friends, and would never imagine anything like this happening. Now, Elizabeth Munster, 9091.
Did you say Elizabeth Munster?
Munster.
Munster family?
we got a Miss Ellie Munster here. Why would you call your friends instead of 911? In this day and age, we don't know about 911. The excuse is that members of the sorority, they're always call I'm not sure, head hun I'm assuming huncho of the sorority. I would think that rule would not be applicable to murders. I read that the president of the university knew of the murders before the police. That's just speculation, but something there too. I think that it sucks because I agree with you that 911 should have been called. It doesn't matter if you generally call the head of your sorority when things go down. I think, a lot of these people are brainwashed and scared, and you might make reckless decisions, but at the same time, you could have called, let if you want to text your sorority, let them know, but call 911 too. It doesn't, like, you can send a text and be like, oh my god, these people we just found this, I'm gonna go call the cops. And if anybody interfered with that, if anybody said don't call the cops, that person should be held accountable, because that's not okay. We shouldn't be playing these games when in any situation, really. I don't think sororities are ever gonna, there's no reasons for them to ever be above the law and calling the police. So definitely, no matter how scared you are in a situation and you want to go to someone that you think is your friend, a friend, the real friend, someone who's really looking out for your best interest, is going to want you to contact the police and get the situation handled as soon as possible.
That 8-hour delay is just an incredible elephant in the room that really has not been explained by the frozen shock phase. In an earlier episode, we had Lucky, a great YouTuber, on here. We didn't even talk beforehand. Neither one of us had time. We're both busy. And so we were going to do who's top 5 list. I asked him, what's the top number 1 issue on your list? He says, the 8-hour delay. And I said, I wrote mine down and we didn't even talk, but there it is. And so, I think a lot of people feel that is their number 1. I've actually gotten a couple of people that have suggested to us their own top 5 lists. So why don't we do this with our viewers? Why don't we ask them to submit their top 5 to us? What are the and don't go by what I just said. Whatever you see independently in your reading, your listening, your viewing, whatever you view, whether it was the Paramount or the YouTube or whatever. From your own observations, tell us what your top 5 issues are. Now, you don't have to write a book. You don't have to write just tell us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what your top 5 are. And we'll do a future episode, focusing on what you folks think, because, maybe you're tired of, hammering on these things. I think I came up with 4 new things today, but they kind of related back a little bit to some of the things we've talked about before. So with that, I am going to read. I don't know if you have one final one to read, but I have one final one here that I do want to read. It says, it's Dar, D-A-R-R. Always good to see you both making good videos. I was wondering what happened with this case. So that's it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. And thank you for everybody who always leaves positive commentary. I think that there's a lot of ins and outs of this. And like Andrew said, I would love to hear your 5 points. I know he said don't write a book. If you want to write a book, that's fine, but we might not get to your whole novel. But we do read all the comments and appreciate what everybody has to say.
Be polite, be kind, be respectful, no matter where you are. If you're in the grocery store, if you're in the gas station, if you're at the W-Mart store, it can get frustrating in there. And especially if you're making comments, we want you to comment, but be polite, be respectful of other people. If you personalize the comment, we have a little delete button right here. We want to hear what you have to say. Even if you disagree with us, that's fine. But if you personalize it and have negative things to say about anybody, delete.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, and we look forward to seeing you in future episodes.
Have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there. Or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
And that's that.
And that's that.
And that's that.
There are tunnels. There are tons of tunnels. There are tunnels everywhere.
No tunnels, no dead horses, no phone calls.
There are so many tunnels that people don't even realize. And there are people running in the tunnels.
Stay out of those tunnels.
There's a horse in the tunnel.
And it's alive and well.
It's alive. We would never beat a live horse.
Only the dead ones.